Thank you for joining us at the 2022 Sloan Sports Analytics Conference. These competitive advantage talks are presented by Kager, also known as the Craft Analytics Group. My name is Jen Whaley, and I'm a first-year MBA student at MIT Sloan. It's my pleasure to introduce the presentation, The Power of Philanthropy Through Sport. Please join me in welcoming our speaker, Keisha Nix, VP of Charitable Affairs for the Los Angeles Lakers, to the stage.
Thank you. Thanks, Jen. She is amazing. So, good morning, everyone, and welcome. We may be a little small, but we are mighty, okay? So I'm just happy that you guys are all here. I just want you to know how important you are to me. I traded 80-degree weather to come to 30. And it doesn't take an analytical slide or any data to realize that that was not the best trade in the world, but it has paid off, and I've met some really good people. So what I'm here to do today is to really, kind of inspire, motivate, share some best practices with you about what I do for the Los Angeles Lakers, how I raise money, and how you can take the principles that I'll give you and kind of relate that to your organization or wherever you are in your journey. But before I do that, it is really important that I tell you who I am, where I came from, and just kind of set the expectation, because it really helps to understand why I do what I do. I thought about it before I came, and I was like, oh, but Jen's gonna kill me if I don't stay on the slides and if I don't give all the data. And then I sat through some of the presentations yesterday, and I kind of confirmed what I already knew. So if you just indulge me for a couple of minutes, I'm gonna give you a little bit of my background, and then I promise we'll get into the slides and some fun fundraising ideas and tips. So who am I? I am the first Black female vice president in the history of the Lakers organization. Thank you. That is something that I am proud of, and that, yes, I am bragging about. I'm also was nominated and voted for Sports Illustrated 100 Most Influential Black Women in Sports. And so I've worked hard to get to where I am. I was born in South Central Los Angeles. So those of you not familiar with the West Coast, South Central is not probably the best part of town. We're not talking Beverly Hills or Bel Air. We're talking South Central, where the crime rates are high, gang violence is prevalent, poverty levels are extremely, bad. And I was born to a 17-year-old unwed mother in 1970. Not a very popular decision at the time. Given to my grandparents, they raised me on a fixed income, but I didn't even know we were on a fixed income because they were rich. They were rich in spirit. They were rich in power. I watched them be the president of the block club. I watched them run the voting polls. I watched them give back in church. So service was embedded in me from a young child. And you know what? It's not about where you start. It's really about where you finish. So fast forward 24 years old, and I become a single mom. And to my only son, Kyler, shout out to Kyler, because he did help me with the slides. So I have my own millennial at the house right now. But at 24 years old, I realized I wanted to give him an even better life than I had. And I had a pretty good life. And so I got a job at Merrill Lynch. Merrill Lynch. I was an English major in college. I hated business, I hated math, and I hated economics. But I got a job at Merrill Lynch. Go figure. The money was good, though. And so I did that because that was going to help me to take care of my one and only son. So when I got there, I got indulged in the culture. We were working in a specialty area. We helped to open the first high net worth office for Merrill Lynch. And so we were taking companies and clients who were executives at companies who had large pieces of restricted stock. And we did stock diversification strategies, and we showed them how to take their companies public. And it was exciting, and it was lucrative, and it was fun. But it was also a way that I could take the high net worth client or broker and then the communities that I was serving and living in Compton and Watts and East LA, and I could take those communities and I could be the connector for those too. I wasn't getting paid for that. As a matter of fact, I did community relations for Merrill Lynch for 18 years. I am looking in the mailbox for my check because they definitely owe me more than a debt of gratitude. But it was a great opportunity because the people over here really had a heart to give and they wanted to give, but they weren't going to get in their cars and drive down to Watts. The people over here wanted to meet these people, but again, there was no way. So I just used my resources, my influence, and I connected those two. And it was great. So I did that for 18 years. Well, when Bank of America bought Merrill Lynch, there became an opportunity for me to move into community relations full time. And two of my mentors said, Keish, if you don't do this, you'll never get to where you really want to be. And I said, are you crazy? Like, it's a pay cut. I mean, a huge pay cut, like a comma and some zeros. And my one and only son was going off to college. And they said, yeah, but you don't want to do sales. You know, we want you to do this, but you don't want to. And so we know what you want, and you got to trust us. And I said, oh, my God. So I did it. I stepped out on faith. And I went into community relations. I started in community relations with Bank of America as an assistant vice president, a project manager, very low on the totem pole, like almost the lowest at that time. But what they gave me was a huge opportunity. Because I had had some dealings with Magic Johnson on the Merrill Lynch side, and Magic had just become an owner of the Dodgers, they handed me the sponsorship of the Los Angeles Dodgers to manage. That's what I was doing for Bank of America. Well, I did that job for 3 years, and I did it well. When I started, the contract was about $2 million, and it wasn't a long-term contract. We were renegotiating every year or two. When I finished as a vice president. I took the contract to over $5 million a year for 5 years, so $25 million. And by doing that, I made a name for myself. Next thing I know, Jeannie Buss, the owner of the Lakers, is calling the Dodgers, one of her best friends, asking, is there someone that you know that can run the Lakers Foundation? He says, I have one person. They called me on a Monday. By Friday, I had a whole new career. And that's really what happened. I boast about that because it doesn't happen like that anymore, but it did happen. And it catapulted me, into the world of sports and sports philanthropy. And so I'm so excited because now I get to do what I really want to do. And sports opens the door for so many opportunities, transformative opportunities. And it's not just about dribbling a basketball. It's not just about throwing a football. But there are so many opportunities for our young people, for you young people, behind the scenes in sports. Sports creates those opportunities. There are more Keisha Nickses than there are Magic Johnsons. There are more opportunities to be Keisha Nicks than there is to be LeBron James. And so that's my mission. That's what I go out. That's what I promote to the youth in our community. Now, I still want the check from Merrill Lynch. Plus, I gave them my one and only son. He is now a financial advisor at Merrill Lynch in Beverly Hills. He started 24 years after I started, at 24 years old, in the exact same office. Clap it up for that, okay? So now let's really get into the presentation before Jen takes me off the stage. So I wanted to set the tone by telling you about charitable giving in the United States. It's really a misconception that corporations give the most money, because they really don't. It's really individuals like you and I. Individual givers gave $471 billion in 2020. That's during the pandemic, people. Corporations decreased during the pandemic, and then foundations also increased. Why am I telling you this? Because we all fall in one or more of those buckets. So whether you're an individual giver, whether you run a foundation like me, or whether you'll end up in corporate America, and you can kind of instruct and direct where that giving goes. So this is really important. Next thing I want to tell you about is about how we start at the Lakers, how we start every season, and how I'm going to relate this to sports, because we're at a sports conference. And you can do this regardless of what path you're in, whether you go into sports or just philanthropy, or you just want to be a good corporate citizen. So at the Lakers, every year we have the same goal. The goal is to win a championship, on the court as well as off the court. And see, today I adorn my 2020 championship ring because I helped the Lakers to be champions off the court. So yes, I earned this ring. Many men, and I will say men, always say, how did you get that ring? Who were you dating? I'm appalled at that. No, I worked hard to get this ring because, again, we want to be champions on the court as well as off the court. So we make our plan in the beginning of the season, and you have to define for you what a championship looks like. I know what it looks like for me. For you, it could look like you want to raise $1 million, or maybe you want to raise 10,000, or maybe you just want to raise awareness. But what does a championship look like for you? And then you have to draft your team. We need a draft, okay? We need a good draft pick. So for me, my external partners, those are like my players. And external partners for me are corporate partners. We have a ton of corporate partners who want to do good in the community, but they kind of need some help in order to do that. So those are some of my players. Our donors, those are some of my those are some of my external partners. Those are my teammates. And then who are my internal partners? My internal partners, believe it or not, are some of the players. So we switch sides there. They become my internal partners because I need them to do what? Show up at events. I need them to make appearances. I need them to sign hundreds of pieces of memorabilia so that I can go out and I can auction that off to raise money for the foundation and to give back into the community. That's what I need my players to do. I also need ownership. I need ownership to buy in. I need family members of ownership. I need internal staff members. These are the people that make up my internal team. I like to call them my coaches. They don't know it, but that's what they are. And then I sit with my team and decide, what are our biggest advantages and opportunities for the year? How am I going to be able to raise this money? Because remember, the Lakers allow me to give back 100% of the funds that I raise. So it behooves me to raise as much money and as much awareness for different organizations in the community as I can, because I can give it all back. I can make some huge moves, give opportunities to kids in these underserved areas. So how do I do that? This is what makes up the bulk of my fundraising. The big golf tournament. I got some people in here from the PGA. The golf tournament, literally, I raised almost half my budget just from the golf tournament. Now, unfortunately, we haven't been able to have it in the last 2 years, but I promise it's coming back. How else do I raise money? In arena auctions. Those hundreds of pieces of memorabilia that those players are so not happy to sign. I don't even show up on signing day because it is not a fun day. But they do it. I'll never forget, Shaq's mom asked, did he sign everything? And I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, he better had. So at least I had Shaq's mom on my side for that one. Private shopping events, which are so much fun. I'm going to talk about that. You can see I'm a consumer. And lastly, corporate partnerships. Our corporate partners are very generous, and some of them write into the contract that they want to gift so much money from the contract to the Lakers Youth Foundation because it's important for them. They come to me during the pandemic. One corporate partner came and said, hey, I know that you did a technology donation during the pandemic. I want to do the same thing. I said, okay, no problem. They said, can we give you the money? I said, no, why use me as the pass-through? Let me just connect you directly to the Boys and Girls Club. And they were like, wow. So I connected them, and what did that do? It brought more resources to the Boys and Girls Club. So I don't always have to have my name on it. I don't need the credit, because at the end of the day, that's not what I'm seeking. I'm seeking assistance and resources for these communities. So first fundraising opportunity, private shopping events. You would be amazed at how much money you can raise with private shopping events. Now, on the monitor, I have Christian Louboutin, because that happens to be one of my favorites. Not wearing the red bottoms today, but I do have a pair upstairs. And so what I did, and this may not work in your market, there may not be a Christian Louboutin in your market, but you have to find out what does work in your market. I'm in Hollywood, La La Land, the land of the beautiful people. And so they like to buy red bottoms. And so I partnered with one of our players. It was such an easy lift for us. We didn't do anything. The player showed up, he tweeted about it, people came from everywhere. In 2 hours, I sold $86,000 worth of shoes. What did Louboutin do? They gave me 20% of those proceeds. Why? Because they wouldn't have sold those shoes had it not been for us. Now, they tried to lowball me. They started at 10%, and I said, oh no, because I know what we're gonna bring to the table. They also allowed sales for the entire day to be calculated. So that's how I negotiated with them. Jimmy Choo happens to be one of our owner's favorite. So what we do at Jimmy Choo, we don't go in store, we actually create a store inside of a Lakers game, and we invite who? Our courtside seat holders. Let me tell you, these women love to carry their Jimmy Choo bags around the court, and they love to sit them right down. It's probably a safety hazard, but guess what? It makes them feel good. And that money goes back to the Youth Foundation. In 2 hours during a game, $80,000 worth of shoes sold in arena. MCM, another one, Versace, Gucci, you name it. Now, these might not work in your market. Guess what? Kendra Scott, a very reasonably priced retailer, one of the most generous retailers that I know. We have parties at her store all the time. I may only raise a couple of $1,000s, but it's a feel good. So you have to find out what works in your market. If you're in the big places like Miami or Boston or New York or Chicago, this might work. If you're not, then figure out what does work for you. And if it's not just about money, what about the social capital? What about the social capital that is raised? Louboutin had 2.8 million followers, and they were tweeting about the Lakers Youth Foundation and all the great work. The Lakers, not just our community page, even though our community page, I do boast, has more followers than any other team in the NBA, but our main page has over 30 million followers. So anytime I need the main account to let the world know what we're doing, I can access that. And then Magic Johnson, I partner with Magic on a lot of events, a lot of opportunities. Magic has 5.1 million followers himself. He actually tweeted about me when I got my promotion, and that was really exciting for me. The golf tournament. Oh my God, this is like the big of them all. So the Lakers have been having the golf tournament for approximately 25 years when I get there. At the height of the golf tournament, they had raised about $385,000 in one afternoon. My first year, I raised over $400,000. My second year, over $500,000. The next year, my all-time record breaker, $550,000 in one afternoon. As a matter of fact, I'm walking through the tunnel, Jeannie Buss is walking up, and she's like, oh my God, I don't know how you did it. I can't even fathom. It's a losing year, we're not doing good, and you beat your record. I said, I know, probably not the smartest thing, because now you expect me to do it again. But $550,000, how did I do that? You know what I did? It wasn't that hard. I just looked at what was happening before I got there. They weren't maximizing the potential. They were leaving foursomes on the table. Any golf course is going to let you have, I think, 28 foursomes, or in our case, fivesomes, because we throw a celebrity out there. They were selling like 20, 21. Hey, come on, team, we're the Lakers. We can do this. Oh, yeah, it does cost $12,500 to come to the golf tournament, but again, we're the Lakers, and we're playing at Riviera Country Club. So guess what? I'm going to sell out every year. I'm also going to charge sponsors who want to be on the holes. Oh, you want to come and give out golf balls? You want to give out shoes? That's so nice, but you're going to have to pay me to do that. Why? Because that money is going back to the community. It's important to me. I'm not just trying to shake you down for fun. I'm shaking you down for my community partners. So I don't want to stop play on the course. I don't want to slow it down, but I want it to be fun. So sure, you can bring your tequila, but it's going to cost you. You're going to have to pay for that. So I put about 10 whole sponsors out there. And then lastly, at the auction, I made sure we had some of the best items to auction off. We auctioned off a championship ring. We auctioned off a trip to Europe. We auctioned off Mexico. All those hotels that the Lakers stay in when we travel on the road, guess what? I called them up and I said, hey, my name is Keisha Nix and I need a weekend stay from you. And they're like, what? Oh yeah, because we do business with you and we're gonna continue to do that business. And wouldn't it be nice if we could just all get along in the sandbox? So you have to know your audience, you have to know your value, you have to know what makes other people tick. And so that's how I was able to raise all of that money. And what do I do with that money? What do I do with the millions of dollars that I raise? I go back into the community that I grew up in, the communities that I serve. I partner with people like Magic Johnson, and we built a STEM lab at Crenshaw High School. And it was so impactful. I'll never forget when Magic was interviewed, he cried that day. He cried because he thought about when he was in high school, he didn't have that. He cried when he saw the robotics team and they were having the robots do certain things. He cried when he saw the kids who built an app and you could ask it things like, who was the best Laker of all time? And of course they programmed it to say Magic Johnson. These kids were smart. And I paid for curriculum for 4 years, STEM curriculum that the school was losing. The school was losing its accreditation. They were building a room, but they were gonna have nothing in it. So I paid for the technology, and now it's almost time to re-up because that was for 4 years. This is what I do with the money that I raise. I also invested in a project that originated on the East Coast called Project Destin. Project Destin takes minority youth and teaches them about real estate development, how to be a real estate developer, how to own real estate. Who taught anybody in this room that when you were in high school? Nobody. These are the kinds of programs. I brought this program to Los Angeles, and the kids loved it. And now we're about to expand on this program. And how do I do that? Because of the money that I'm raising out there in the community. What else do I do in the community? I build basketball courts, indoor and outdoors. I have 22 Boys and Girls Clubs in Southern California that wear purple and gold, and they're called Junior Lakers. They are so excited, because I don't just put any old court. Their court is fashioned after the Lakers practice court. We give them the best. One of the best projects I ever did was at Union Rescue Mission. I built a basketball court inside of Union Rescue Mission. The court was in such bad shape. It was one of the first projects I got when I got there. And I said, is this a joke? Because I'm not gonna be able to do this. That court needed about $250,000 worth of work. And I said, I don't know what to say. And they said, well, are you willing to work with us? And I said, yes. And so it took us about 3 years to build that court, maybe 2. And we got the number down to under $80,000. And we built that court. And about a week after we built it, they called me. And they said, Keish, we don't want you to be upset, but we had to use your court as an overflow. And I said, wow. So what I thought was a simple basketball court project is now housing people. So let me send you guys some mattress pads. Let me send you some blankets. Don't worry about the court. We can still use the court so that the kids have a safe place to play, but at night they have a safe place to sleep. And so I had to relate that story over to my donors to let them know what you're doing is changing lives. You're housing people now. Again, not what we set out to do. And you have to know when to walk away from something. You have to know about the success, but I gotta tell you about the failure. Oh my God, the 50-50 raffle. Hated it. I don't know how many of you have been to a professional sports game. I don't know if they do them at college games, but football, baseball, hockey. Oh my God, those pots on a given game, hundreds of thousands of dollars. I was at Super Bowl. I bought a 50-50 ticket, maybe 20 tickets, I don't even remember. Those pots are amazing. Basketball, not so much. On a good night, Christmas, maybe $10,000. We are running around like crazy. I'm employing people. I'm paying for benefits. I'm doing all this work. And at the end of the day, I'm getting hardly anything back. Some nights, barely $2,000. I sat with my team president and we talked about, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna do this? I said, we're leaving. He goes, leaving? I said, we're not doing this anymore. I can't do it. It's costing us more money to have than you could just write me a check. So we walked away from the 50-50 raffle because it didn't work. Other NBA teams were calling me saying, oh my God, how did you walk away? Because I was just honest. That's what I was honest. And last, I want to leave you with a quote from one of the greatest Lakers of all time that I had the pleasure of working with while he was playing and then even after. We did some great things together. Kobe was amazing and I miss him dearly. But Kobe said the most important thing is to try and inspire people so that they can be great in whatever they want to do. And that's what I do every day. I go out into the community and I try to inspire the youth. I don't sit behind the desk and write the check and call out the orders or the plays. No, I show up. I can be out of this suit and in some sweats and a t-shirt and some tennis shoes in 5 minutes. I can change in my car if I have to, because whatever it takes. See, because they can't be it if they don't see it. You gotta see it to be it. And that's what I do in the community. And thank you all for coming today. And now I'm gonna answer some questions.
We probably have time for one or two quick questions.
Thank you. How did you all have to change your approach during the pandemic when you couldn't have the golf tournament and any sort of in-person events?
Oh my God, the power of the pivot. You have to be adaptable. I didn't realize how adaptable I could be. You know what I did? I watched the news, I listened to the reports, and I figured we gotta figure out a way to still help and be a resource in the community. And so I went to the Lakers, to the business side of things, and I said, we're not gonna ask for money. We're not gonna raise any money. We have some money, thank God. And we're gonna deploy resources in the community because people need food, kids need technology. And so I used some of the things that I already had at my disposal. I partnered with partners that I had never thought about partnering before, and we just stuck it out and literally did not fundraise for over a year and a half because I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't think it was right to ask people for money during a pandemic, and it worked.
Do you guys ever work with the Clippers or other LA sports teams since you're serving the same community?
You know what? We do. I like to say that the work in the community should be a collaboration, not a competition. The competition happens on the court. And so literally, I partnered with the Clippers last weekend, and we did an event together. All 11 professional sports teams in Los Angeles, during the wake of social justice, we came together and formed an alliance. And so we all worked together. The Rams, the Dodgers, the Chargers, the Angels, all of us are together. And so no matter who it means working with, that's what I do. Other NBA teams call me and I give them advice on some of the things that we're doing. It's just sharing best practices. Let the guys fight it out on the court, but let us come together for the community.
Great, thank you so much, Keisha.